Okay, I think we are live.
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, so I'll just start this off. My name is Micah Raaf. I'm going to be presenting today on how to stay safe online. There's lots of different things we're going to talk about, and I'm trying to keep this kind of like a high level overview of just some general practices, things to be aware of, and I guess what to look out for as far as scams, because there are a lot nowadays. So let's see if I can, there we go. So I'll start it off. My name is Micah Raaf. That's me in Mexico with my girlfriend. And I am a senior systems engineer at a Houston-based managed service provider or managed security provider. I'm also a member of the Houston DEF CON group. And so we do kind of hacker stuff every now and then. And I graduated from 2014 UTSA Omicron Pi. I was in cybersecurity and application development. So if I'm going too fast too, just give me a shout and I'll slow it down a little bit. So who is this for? This presentation's for anyone really. Like I said, I'm trying to keep a high level overview, but it's people that don't have any knowledge, people that are wanting to secure themselves more and kind of learn more about information security, how to stay safe. And it's also for tech savvy people. There are little nuggets here and there that I think a lot of people are going to get some value out of this. So what are we going to talk about? Lots of things. Computer security, just programs that you should have installed to stay safe. This is kind of from a Windows standpoint, but we've also supported Mac in the past, and it's similar. And I'll try to remember to explain the differences between Mac and PC just for that first section. We'll talk about backups, and we'll talk about installing programs and what's safe and kind of what to look for. We're going to go over web security, browsing, social media, safe practices, and kind of things to follow when you're shopping online, as well as passwords and just some tools and things to look for. We'll go over password managers and a couple other things as well. Email security. Vito and I were talking about sending documents earlier, so we're going to talk over or storing documents, where to send, like sending sensitive information and how to do it, as well as spam and phishing and all that good stuff. And banking and credit cards, we're going to touch on just a little bit, and just because there are lots of ways to kind of stay safe. The digital age has kind of evolved into more of like physical things that we do as far as using credit cards and using them online or in person. That gray area, it's become kind of a gray area, and the water's kind of muddled, I guess. So we're going to go over banking and credit cards. And then lastly, we're going to go over scams and how to spot them. Email scams, web scams, social media, kind of all of the above. Um, so computer security, things that you should have on your computer, be it Mac or Windows. You definitely want an antivirus, just because if you accidentally open something, antivirus is there to protect you as kind of a last defense. And modern antivirus have kind of evolved more than antivirus of 10 or 20 years ago. And that's become more like you'll see things like EDR, heuristics, like behavior-based scanning, ransomware protection, exploit protection, all that's all well and good. And they all kind of build on each other. They're all separate components, but that's also kind of the water's muddled a little bit. So that's all kind of just, I could consider it antivirus. Once you get into the corporate world, those products begin to split out a little more, and we have greater control over them. But in the terms of like a consumer, a business person, or like a home user, you really just need kind of antivirus. And backups are super, super important. And we go over this all the time at my company. In the event of like ransomware, super popular nowadays. I see it all the time. I've dealt with probably 3 ransomware cases this year so far. So super, super popular. There isn't really a good way to defend against ransomware outside of paying a lot of money for scanning individual computers and things. So a backup is that last resort, right? Like if something gets deleted, all your stuff gets encrypted. We have the backup to roll back on, a copy of your data somewhere else. Super critical for stuff like tax documents, especially we're coming up on tax season. So I did have a case one time. My uncle called me and he said, well, do I need to worry about my tax documents? I have a business, like a ranch up in San Antonio. Should I worry about backing this stuff up? And I told him, absolutely. What if your stuff gets stolen? What if your house burns down? Where is all that stuff stored? And you want to have, um, at least more than one copy of that stuff, preferably one on-site and off-site. We'll get into that here in a minute. So backups, the types of them, off-site versus on-site. We're going to go over VPNs, virtual private networks. What are they? Why would I need one? Passwords, how to make passwords, passwords versus passphrases, multi-factor. These are all things that get thrown around a lot nowadays. So I really want to kind of show you guys some examples of all that and how they're used. And then we'll go over storing passwords and passwords managers, another one of my favorite tools that I use a lot. So some tools, antivirus, next gen AV, all kind of one big encompassing thing as far as the home user goes. These are the most popular brands, ESET, Bitdefender. I'm sure y'all have heard of McAfee and Norton. There's also Kaspersky. Antivirus has become more and more of a resource hog nowadays. And so choosing a good antivirus for your computer, you want one that's going to be able to pick up a lot of things. It's not going to have a lot of false positives. And you want something that's not going to take over your computer and make it so that you can't use it anymore. And when it comes to Mac, there is such a thing as Mac antivirus. It's becoming more and more popular for hackers and malfeasance to write viruses for Macs. As Apple takes more market share, they've taken at least probably most of the artistic and creative space. Anyone that's using like Adobe products, you'll see a lot of them are using Macs. And so as Apple has taken more market share, it's become more popular to write viruses for Macs. And Mac security is a little different, but we'll try to get into that here in a second. So I had mentioned heuristics and behavior-based scanning earlier. Antiviruses operate by downloading a list of malware signatures. Like basically, it's a file that tells the antivirus this file is a piece of malware, and so your antivirus is downloading this big list, and it really just uses that to find things that are stored on the computer already. But there are also some attacks that don't store files on your computer. And the other pieces of antivirus, like heuristics-based scanning, will kind of pick up that slack a little bit. Since the file is never scanned, the file never exists on the computer, right? So heuristics is behavior-based scanning. What is the process doing? What's on your computer? Is it trying to start other processes? Is it maybe trying to access a website or some other malicious thing on the internet? So behavior-based scanning, heuristics-based scanning tells the antivirus, hey, this thing that's in memory is trying to start another process, and we think that's bad, so we're going to flag that. So it kind of both go hand in hand, I think. A lot of modern antiviruses do this nowadays, but some don't. So it's important to think about these things as you're picking one. Also, antiviruses, they come with web filtering, email filtering, web filtering being the sites that you access on the internet. Your antivirus will once in a while check and download a list of potentially malicious websites. And so web filtering is a way to, every time you access a website, your antivirus is seeing, okay, is this malicious? Is this malicious? Okay, it isn't. Okay, well, then you can access it now. And it's very important for banking websites. And when it comes to phishing, you'll see why it's also important. Email filtering. So this is often a component of your Outlook, or it's some thing that sits between your email reader and the email server that says, email that comes in, I'm going to scan it, make sure it doesn't have any viruses, and then if it doesn't, then I'm going to pass it on to the user. Or if it does, I'm going to block it and tell you that I blocked it. So very, very useful. Exploit protection and ransomware protection. So exploit protection is also a list of instructions that says, hey, Microsoft and a bunch of other security vendors, they put out articles all the time. that say, these are some common exploits that we've seen in the wild. And typically when somebody uses this exploit, they'll perform these 3 actions or whatever. So they'll write a list of instructions for your antivirus that says, hey, if you see a process performing these 3 actions, we think it's malicious. So block it. That's where exploit protection comes in. Ransomware protection is, it's not really as useful as some people think it is, because it's more just a restricted folder that says all of your secure files and documents and things, I want you to put them in this folder, and then only allow certain programs like Microsoft Word, like your email client, like Adobe Reader or whatever, to access that folder. That way, if there is a virus running on your computer, it can't get in that folder and encrypt all of your things and all of your sensitive documents or whatever. So backups. Backups are super, super critical for recovering from an incident. You'll know immediately, like, if you ever in an incident and you don't have a backup, it hurts, right? Because I've had to tell customers before that they didn't have backups, or the latest backup they had was from 2 years ago. And so they lost all their data and then had to set their company back 2 years, basically. And that same thing can happen to the individual. Say the IRS decides to audit you this year or something, and maybe you didn't think you needed a tax document or something anymore from 3 or 4 years ago, and that's the one that the IRS wanted. That's where a backup would come in and say, okay, well, I can just pull it from the backup and then have exactly what I need, instead of being in that place sitting on your hands and I'm like, the IRS has asked me for this thing and I don't have it, right? So yeah, I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. It's definitely one of those situations. What's a backup varies depending on who you ask and who you talk to. It's really just the things that are most critical to you. Some people, it's financial documents. Some people, it's pictures and videos. Myself, I'm a musician, so I have a lot of music files and works in progress and things that I'm working on that I would rather not lose, because some of that stuff is hundreds of hours of work. So I also have a bunch of music files that I back up. How many backups should you have? There's a thing called the 3-2-1 rule that says, I want at least 3 copies of the data. I want it on 2 different medias, like a local copy and a cloud copy, say in like Dropbox or OneDrive or something. And at least one of those should be an offsite backup. So cloud, I like to count it for the home user as an offsite backup, because in the event you lose your computer or your phone, your house burns down or something, or you have all your stuff on your phone gets stolen, you want to be able to recover that stuff. And cloud is a great way to do that. Super approachable. Dropbox isn't very expensive. OneDrive, same thing. And there's also, you'll hear about every now and then, data hoarders. So data hoarding is like, I'm going to store as many copies of this stuff as possible. Really not something that's feasible, especially if you're limited by budget. But really, there are people out there who will just store hundreds and hundreds of copies of things. There's a thing called versioning too. Dropbox, I think the professional versions will give you versions of files. So say I had this PowerPoint, for example, that I was working on, and I made a change that I didn't like, I can use versioning to revert to maybe yesterday's version that says, okay, well, this is the one that I wanted instead. Download that one and start working from that one. So on-site versus off-site backups. There are tons of different medias to use. Most people use USB drives, SSDs. They'll store stuff on their local computer, hoping their local computer, nothing happens to it. Then offsite cloud data warehouses, stuff like Iron Mountain, which really isn't something that the consumer is going to use, but there are places out there where you can store all of your stuff on paper and put it somewhere. On-site backups, we'll go back to it for a second. So CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, platter discs, platter being spinning hard drives. And you'll notice I didn't mention flash drives up there, because flash drives technically should not be used as a backup. Since electricity is used to store data on that USB drive, on that SSD in the first place, if you power that off and put it somewhere, say in a closet or a file folder, that data can degrade over time. So maybe within 3-4 years, the drive won't work as well anymore and the data might actually be gone. I've heard cases before where the FBI had an SSD or a USB drive in storage while their case was being processed. And by the time they pulled the evidence out of locker, the data had all been erased because the drive was just sitting there and doing nothing over years. So I would not recommend using flash drives as backups. If you really need to put it somewhere, use CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays. You're physically writing it to a disk and you can just pull that out and use that. Platter, it won't degrade like USBs and SSDs, but if it's truly valuable, I would put it on CD or DVD or Blu-ray or something like that, some kind of optical media. So let's talk about passwords. Passwords are the oldest version of securing an account or a login or something. There are lots of different methods you can use to kind of buff that a little bit, but everybody knows what a password is. Everybody has to change their passwords all the time. So let's talk about how to make good ones and how not to make good ones. A good password, the longer is better. 14 characters is usually the sweet spot. You want something that's going to be good to remember, easy to remember, but not so complex that you're going to want to write it down. So I remember in high school, I had a password that I wanted to remember, and I wanted it to just be a random string of numbers and letters. Cool. I wrote down a random string of numbers on a piece of paper, put it next to my computer, and then I would look at it every time I typed it in. And I did it so much that I eventually memorized it and got rid of the piece of paper. But for that 6 months or whatever, it was a piece of paper sitting on my desk. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into an office, didn't know the password, and flipped over the keyboard, and there it was on a sticky note right in front of me. So if it's so complex that you have to write it down, or your boss is making you change it so often, your bank's making you change it so often that you have to write it down, I would use something else that we're going to get into called a password manager here in a minute. There's also been an effort nowadays to change from passwords to passphrases, because if you look at my examples there, passphrases are very long, right? And they're also very easy to remember. Horse, exclamation, dash car, exclamation battery, staple. 4 words separated by exclamations and dashes and a 2. We've got uppercase letters, lowercase letters, special characters like the exclamation, another special character like a dash, and we have an alphanumeric, the 2 at the end. So I think that's something like 26 characters. It's long, it's easy for you to remember, and it's going to be very hard to guess that or crack that when it comes to like a password cracking program. Same thing with the next one. Does a deer have antlers? So capitals, lowercase letters, no dashes in between them, but it has the special character, the exclamation at the end, and it's got an alphanumeric. It's got the 2 in it. So also a pretty good passphrase. So bad passwords, they're short. Think like 6 zeros. I had a customer for a long time. They didn't want to change their password, and the login to one of their servers was 0000000. Horrible. It gets cracked in less than a second, and it's the easiest thing ever to guess. If your password is something like password or let me in, or it's something related to your some piece of knowledge that's like your first name, your last name, your mother's maiden name, your kid's name, your dog's name. Those are all things that if I was a hacker trying to guess your password, what would I guess? If maybe me, for example, I'm a musician, so if I made it music, something like that, that's the first thing that a hacker is going to guess if they're trying to get into your account, is something about you, your maiden name, something available on the internet they can see publicly. Short passwords, less than 14, get cracked immediately. Don't use them. Anything not complex. So in the industry, we call these character sets. Capital A through Z is 26 characters. Lowercase a through Z is another 26 characters. 0 through 9, 10 special characters. They're like, there's probably 14 or 15 of them, something like that. It varies depending on the bank or the website you're logging into. But bad passwords are they're passwords that don't have any of these things. So you really want to have at least one somewhere, but make it useful, like in a passphrase. Don't make it random, like I'm going to separate or change an A to an @ sign, or I'm going to change an E to a 3. Um, those are all very easily guessed, and the hacker is going to guess that first every time. Anything common, like common password patterns, summer 2019, fall 2025 exclamation, that stuff gets guessed immediately. They don't even have to crack it. And anything that has an account name or a log name or the login name or the account that you're trying to log into, like say I'm trying to log into my Bank of America account. If I make it Bank of America exclamation, that's going to get guessed immediately every time. So you want something that's it's not associated with the account that you're logging into. So there's a lot of information on this page, but all it is I took a bunch of passwords and I put them in an online password tester that tells me how secure it is, how long, if I was using a program and having a computer guess a password, how long would it take to crack that password? So you'll see on the right side all of the really bad ones. PAT-SSW0RD in the top right takes 0 seconds to crack it. It's the first thing a hacker is going to guess every time. Don't use it. Same thing, summer 2017, capital S, lowercase, 2017 exclamation, 3 seconds. Let me in, exclamation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Looks like a long password, but let me in is very commonly guessed, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 0 is literally just all the numeric keys across the top. So it looks long, it has an exclamation, and it has capitals and numbers and stuff, but it's going to be easily guessed and cracked every time. So the ones in the middle, kind of a gray area. They look long, they look like they might be worth it. The one on the top, the QAZWXZ or whatever, I literally just went down my keyboard, QAZWSX, and like just followed the pattern across my keyboard to make that one. So it looks long, it looks like it'd be secure, but it's going to take 23 hours to crack it, almost no time at all. And the same thing for the next one, the QWERTY. I went across horizontally on my keyboard, hit every key on my keyboard, and then it's 33 characters. It would take 2 months. That's almost no time at all. But with the advent of like AI and supercomputers and things, there's probably even less to crack passwords like this. And then the same thing for the next one. Strawberry, I switched the E for a 3, 1, 2, 3, exclamation at pound is just 1, 2, 3, but with the shift character to hit those special characters, 8 hours, almost no time at all. And it's surprising because all of those look pretty long, but they're all following common patterns that you would hit on a keyboard. They're going to get guessed first. For the ones on the left, I've got a passphrase in the top left, the same one from the last slide. It's going to take 4 trillion years to crack it. The next one is actually a bad password, even though it's long and got a lot of special characters and things in it. It's super, super hard to remember. So it's going to get written down. So that's why that's actually a bad password. It's going to take a really long time to crack it, but all they got to do is flip over your keyboard and see it right there. And the last one, does a deer have antlers or hooves? Super long passphrase, not terribly easy to get to. Crack's going to take 1 trillion years. So there's lots of strategies for picking passwords. Everybody does something differently. For the first couple of years I started working for my company, anytime I had to make a password, I was using planets. And so I would do Jupiter 1, 2, 3, 7 or something like that. So and then those are all just patterns of switching between things. So if a hacker were to find out what that pattern is, it becomes trivial to guess what the next password might be. Or maybe they have the first half of the password and then they just have to guess the number or something. So try not to use easily repeatable patterns like that. So multi-factor authentication is a second part of your password. And it is, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it before. Your bank wants you to enter your password, and then they also want to send the little 6-digit code to your cell phone number. So that's called a multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. It's a second piece of information that you need to log into the website. And it's something that you have. So a password is called something that you know. A multi-factor is something that you have. That's going to be stuff like phone number, MFA codes. A lot of people, they also have like a Google authenticator that has a bunch of rotating codes that every 60 seconds they'll get a new code for Facebook or a new code for Instagram or whatever. So those are all called time-based one-time passwords, TOTP. You don't need to know that. It's just a multi-factor code. And there's also these things called hardware keys that it's like a little USB that you have on your keychain that you just plug that in and use it. So those are all things that you have. Password is something that you know. MFA, phone numbers, apps, something that you have. And you won't really see these a lot nowadays, but they're also biometrics. That's something that you are. I have a fingerprint. My fingerprint is who I am. It's unique to me. Same thing with like a retina scanner or one of the data centers that we use, they have a palm reader. And so you put your palm on it, it shines a light through your hand and it sees the vein patterns in your hand and reads that because that's going to be unique to me. I would have to physically be there with my fingerprint or my eye or my hand to get into that. You won't really see that a whole lot nowadays, but it is in use some places. So even if you have a weak password, the MFA makes up for that because my password could be strawberry123 or whatever. But I also have to have that MFA code, right? So it makes it a little bit stronger, but not bulletproof. There are ways to get around the phone codes, like sending the code to your text message or something. So I would recommend not using phone SMS as an MFA method. I would use probably the Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. There's a couple other ones like Proton Pass and things. But if you're going to use an MFA app like those and it's on your phone, make sure your phone and those codes is backed up somewhere. Because God forbid, if you lose your phone, those are all of your MFA codes. You're going to have to, one, remember what all you had, and two, call all of those logins and somehow get back into your account without that. So make sure you back that stuff up. So I put this here just as kind of like a general Windows tidbit, but on your computer, when you're installing things, um, you'll often get a pop-up that says, hey, do you want to allow this or do you want to deny it? And for all my Windows guys, it's important to know that if you randomly get a pop-up like this, you should hit no on it every time because that might be a virus trying to install something. But I mean, obviously, if you're installing something like a game or Office, you'll have to have a yes on that one to install it. And you'll quickly find out too, like, oh, well, my program didn't install, it's because you didn't hit yes on it. But if you ever get this and you weren't trying to install something, it may be a virus. You might want to do a scan or something like that. For Mac, it's a little different because I think for Mac, you need to put in your admin credentials every time you install something, or you have to drop your fingerprint or something. But same thing, if you ever get an alert like that and you aren't actively trying to install something, then you may have something malicious on your Mac. So virtual private networks, what is it? I see them all the time, ads for NordVPN or some other VPN client. Businesses use them all the time. All it is at its core is a VPN is a tunnel that connects your computer or your network to some remote place. With a business, you're connecting back to the office network so you can see file shares or access printers or other resources, something like that. When it comes to the individual, a VPN is a program that allows you to connect to some other server on the internet and be accessing the internet from that location. So the marketing you'll see for VPNs nowadays is I want to use a VPN because I want to watch maybe the UK Netflix catalog or something. So you could have a VPN connect to a server in the UK. And as far as Netflix knows, you're accessing Netflix from the UK. And so they're licensed for the UK catalog. And so then you could see all of the Netflix shows in the UK. Whereas in the United States, maybe we don't have the licensing for that, so we don't see certain things. It's also used by citizens of countries in China to get past state firewalls. I think it's used in Pakistan and Iran and some other countries too, because the country blocks certain things at the firewall, so they can't get Facebook in China, so they have to use something like a VPN to get to that. And then the VPN just takes it, makes it look like they're in America or something, and then now they have access to Facebook. So some VPNs, there's tons of them all over the place. Some are built better than others. Some store data and logs, and some don't. Some block ads and malware when you're on them through web filtering and web proxying, but some don't do that. The one I use NordVPN, and it has the ability to block ads and malware on it, which is nice, or attempt to block them. But so it just depends on what you're trying to use. So why would I use a VPN as a home user? A VPN is a way to separate yourself from the public Wi-Fi or public internet. So say you're doing some studying, you're at a Starbucks, they have Google Wi-Fi there. It's free, it's fast. If you connect to that network, you're also connecting to the other devices in that Starbucks. And potentially you don't know that Wi-Fi is actually Google Starbucks. What if it's somebody sitting in their car outside with something called a Wi-Fi pineapple? That's basically just a device that connects to the cellular network, claiming to be Google Wi-Fi or claiming to be some other Wi-Fi network. And you, as the unsuspecting user, see that and you're like, oh, Google Wi-Fi, it's open. You connect to it, and now they have the ability to intercept your traffic to the internet, or they call it sniffing. So you don't know what that Wi-Fi network is. Same thing in airports. You have no idea what any of those networks are. So a VPN is a way to connect to that other server on the internet, and now you're accessing the internet from that other server. And it's a little bit more secure than just connecting to any old open network anywhere. Private users mostly used to appear in the part of the rest of the world. Public networks, yeah, I think we went over that. So yeah, public networks, that includes Wi-Fi's, Ethernet, even, have you ever seen charging stations at the airport or some other lounge or something where they just have USB ports on the wall? Those are all public networks. If you plug in a cable to that USB port, you don't know where that goes. There could be a computer in that wall right there. The cable itself, I've seen before where the cable has an actual microcontroller in it, some with even SIM cards that report back to somewhere else. So you have no idea what's behind that wall. So my point, never plug into a random USB port. It could be anywhere. The same thing for QR codes. My girlfriend and I were at a baseball game the other day, and on the back of every chair, they had a QR code. And any restaurant you go into nowadays, especially post-COVID, is going to have a QR code menu. You don't know where that code goes. It could go, it's just, a QR code is just opening a link that goes to the internet somewhere, same as like a tiny URL or a bit.ly. Those link obfuscators take a really long URL, a link, and they make it really short, so it's easy to send it places or give it to people. Same thing for stuff like stingrays and Wi-Fi pineapples. We won't really get into those a whole bunch, but there are devices out there that your computer or your phone will automatically connect to because they have a stronger signal than like the Sprint network or the AT&T network or Google Wi-Fi or whatever. So it's important that if you can, or you're going to at least do financial things, be on a VPN or be at home on a safe computer or something. The thing about QR codes too is if you've ever seen, for example, like parking lots, you'll see a really big QR code that says, hey, pay your parking meter here or whatever. If somebody comes by and takes a little 2-inch QR code and puts it over the top of that 1 foot by 1 foot QR code, your phone is going to scan the one in the middle, not the big one. It's very easy to take a QR code sticker and lay it over the top of another one. And I'll show you some pictures later, but your phone is going to pick up the one on top and it could go literally anywhere. You have no idea. USB devices. There have been cases before where USB devices like USB drives and things were dropped in the parking lot. Somebody picks it up and plugs it in. You have no idea what's on that. It could be a malicious file. It could be something that when you plug it into your computer, it installs a program automatically. Be suspicious of anything that somebody gives you. Maybe you're at a bar and somebody's like, hey, I've got a stack of USB drives. I'm advertising for my new product. You're at South by Southwest or something. Here, take this USB drive, plug it in your computer. It's my new thing or whatever. You have no idea where that's from. So anything that somebody gives you like that, if it's not from a trusted place, I would suspect it and not use it. So let's talk about web security. It's everywhere. We can't get away from it. Social media, websites, we do it all the time. So I'm going to talk about kind of what to look for, especially when it comes to shopping online, using websites securely, sending information to and from websites, web links. We'll go over data brokers, cookies, incognito mode, all that good stuff. So browsing just with Google or Bing or any of your search engines and stuff are loaded full of ads and things nowadays. And you can kind of tell a little bit if you look at this example I've got on the right side. It's got the Amazon link, Amazon.com official site. And then on the bottom left, there's a little sponsored link right there. So that was just in the first example I pulled up for Bing. Google, it's a little different, but just be cognizant of what you're looking at and browsing for, because it's very easy. I see people do it all the time. They'll search for something in Google, and then the first thing that pops up is the one that they click, but not knowing that it's a sponsored link or not knowing that it's another website. Just try to be cognizant of what you're looking at and searching for and going to the right things, the thing that you're actually going to. So top level domains, TLDs, they're very important. They vary depending on where you are and what you're trying to access. Most of the things we're going to see nowadays, .com, google.com, amazon.com, bestbuy.com. There's also these things called .govs, .eus, .rus, .ios, and we'll get into this more when we look at email, but it's important to know the website and kind of the general location where it's from. So if maybe you get an email link that somebody sends you that says, oh, this is going to amazon.com, it's probably legitimate. But maybe you get a link that says amazon.ru. Well, RU is Russian, and all of the websites are based in Russia. You have to be living in Russian to buy one. The same for a lot of different countries. .io is kind of unique because it's technically Trinidad and Tobago or something like that. But for a while, it was used to denote, oh, well, this is a tech company or a startup or something. So that country sold the rights for people to be able to buy .ios, and now you can buy a .io. But when it comes to just looking at links, that top level domain is kind of give you an idea of what the website is all about, right? So HTTPS versus HTTP, we're going to go over here in a second. When you look at the top, like look at a website, and this one on the bottom right, for example, or the one on the top right is probably better. https.com://www.amazon.com. It's got the little lock icon right there next to it, and also the HTTPS. That HTTPS is a way for you to quickly know that this website is secure. So Amazon has worked with another provider called a certificate authority to get a certificate that says, I am Amazon.com. This website is Amazon.com. Anybody that's coming to this website, I want them to know that I am legitimately Amazon.com. And that's what that lock icon's there for. That's HTTPS. Any traffic that you do nowadays, like Facebook, Instagram, banking, all that stuff should be HTTPS. And if you ever see something on the left that says not secure, and there is no HTTPS or lock or anything, it's probably actually HTTP instead, which the S in HTTPS stands for secure. And I won't get into encryption and all that, but it's a way to secure the communication between yourself and that website so that if I'm putting my banking information in on Amazon.com, I can be safe in knowing that nobody's intercepting my traffic between myself and Amazon.com is what that means. And every now and then you'll see something in the bottom right where it says HTTPS, but it's crossed out like that. And you might get a little warning like this that says your connection's not private. So this website has a certificate, but it's called a self-signed certificate. They never reached out to that certificate authority and got the certification that says, I am example.com, give me a certificate. They just made one on their own. And so that's why you're getting the nice message that says your connection's not private. Attackers may be trying to steal your information. So if you ever get something like this, also not a good sign. For when it comes to IT management things, I see it all the time, but when it comes to accessing banking websites, if you get this on chase.com or Bank of America, you should absolutely close out of it and not go any further. So we'll briefly go over data brokers. If you've ever gotten curious and tried to Google your name before, and you saw a bunch of stuff come up that said, my address, my brothers and sisters, my mom and my dad, all of their birthdays, all of that stuff you're getting from a data broker. So that website maybe they've bought your information from some advertiser. Maybe I went to buy glasses from LensCrafters or something, and LensCrafters resold my information to a data broker. That's where all of that information ends up. And so people can buy that. It gets sold on the dark web and on the normal web all the time. So you can have this information removed because these are all pieces of information people can Google and find out about you. If I was a hacker trying to get into your bank account and I wanted to know, okay, well, I don't know his password, but I know that it requires a security message to say, what's your mother's maiden name? So I can just Google that and say, okay, what was Micah's mother's maiden name? And then find out that, oh, I can put this in and then I can get past that password and just reset it and go somewhere else or whatever. Things that are commonly found, names, addresses, relatives, phone numbers, super common. I know even to get into it sometimes for like QuickBooks, if you were going to do that, or if you were going to get in and maybe do TurboTax, Intuit will ask you to authenticate and prove that you are who you are. And it'll ask you, okay, well, we want you to tell us the car that you had in 2003, or tell us where you lived in 1990, or tell us the name of your brother. That's all stuff that can be easily found in here. So it'd be good to not have all of that out on the internet. You can use a service like Incogni that will try to get that data removed from data brokers. They basically just send legal threats to them and say, hey, remove this. And they just keep sending it until the data broker removes your information. So super useful. I don't use it myself, but it would probably be wise. So cookies, I'm sure people have heard about cookies before. They are small pieces of information that are stored about you on your computer on the behalf of a website. So we'll keep using Amazon.com. When you go to Amazon and it comes up with you last looked at this product, or we think you would like these other products or something, that's all information that's being stored in the cookie on your computer. And it's a way that the website uses to, one, track you, and two, make it a better website experience for you. So if you're having to go to the same website all the time and you're not being served the same products and ads every time, then you aren't staying on the website as long. And so Amazon wants you to stay on the website and buy more things. So it's going to try to recommend other things that you might like. Same thing with advertisers like Facebook and all the Facebook ads and things. they want to serve you ads that you know are going to keep that they know are going to keep you on the app. So it behooves them to have all that information be similar from your last visit so that you stay on the app for longer, you stay on the website for longer. So cookie is going to store things like browser type, advertising ID, computer type, search preferences, account names, makes it easier to log in. Maybe it stores your account name so you don't have to type it in every time. That all results in an easy experience for you. So from the website's perspective, it's great. They can have a little bit of information to track you and you can have a better website experience. But not all cookies are used the same. Some store more information than others. Some websites use them to track you to a greater extent than other websites do. So it's not necessarily bad to have cookies, but every now and then it's not a horrible idea to clean all that stuff and all that. It depends on the browser. You just go into the browser and then do settings, delete cookies, delete tracking or whatever like that. It can also be done on phones. It just depends on what browser you're trying to use. You can easily look up in Google, oh, I want to delete my cookies or whatever. And you should find something. So incognito mode. It's not really as incognito as people think it is. It's marketed as a way to avoid storing cookies or personal data about you. Google has one, Firefox has one, Safari has private mode. I think Edge also has private mode or something like that. Those are all ways that each time you open a new incognito tab, it's supposed to not be storing that information about you. But Google actually just got into legal trouble within the last 6 months, I think, that they were storing people's incognito sessions and what was happening in there. I exclusively use it as a way to log into the same account, or like if I want to log into 3 different email addresses on the same computer, I can use an incognito in Firefox, an incognito in Google, another one in Edge or whatever. But don't exclusively rely on incognito mode to think that your information is safe. Ultimately, if you're accessing a website from your computer in incognito mode, it's not storing the history as far as you can know, but the website still sees that you're accessing it from your computer. So they still have a log of you accessing that. But it's not as safe as people think it is. Don't rely on it too much. So shorten links. How many people today saw that tiny URL for the Zoom link and they just clicked it without looking at it? So a link shortener like bit.ly or tiny URL takes what's called a long form link and it makes it shorter so that you can share it with other people, which is really nice. It makes it easy. You don't have to remember this huge long thing. It'll just be like tinyurl.com / a couple letters and numbers. Way easier than us02web.zoom.us or whatever. But it's the same thing as QR codes. That tiny URL, if it didn't have this Frac Digital Safety Session at the end, you'd have no idea what that was. And so you can use what's called a link unshortener to open that link for you and tell you what it is without you actually opening it yourself. And then I can tell, okay, this is a Zoom meeting link. I know where this is going. But what if it instead was like Amazon.ru or openmymalware.ch or something? Like it could be anything. So as long as you're doing your diligence and finding out what that is before you actually open it on your device, that's safe in my mind. So sub-safe practices, we've been over some of these things already. Always confirm the website you're accessing is HTTPS, especially when you're shopping online, doing anything with finances, doing anything that requires sensitive information like health payment systems or looking at health information or whatever. Always make sure it's HTTPS. Don't click random links. You can easily hover over a link to see where it goes without actually opening it. Don't click random links that have been sent to you on social media. Same kind of thing. Very, very easy to hijack a social media account. If somebody sends you a message on Facebook Messenger or an Instagram, you don't really see what it is. Maybe it even came from a friend and you open it. It could be anything. And sometimes I've seen it before where somebody opened a Facebook Messenger link and it didn't even look like they outright got infected by anything, but their account was compromised a couple weeks later. So it could be anything. Try to avoid using public computers. Um, it's the same thing with the USB drive or the USB ports in the airport. That computer at the hotel, a computer at like a like a coffee shop or we don't really have internet cafes, but an internet cafe, you have no idea what's on that computer. So why would you log into it on your bank and then allow somebody to grab your login information from there? There's a program that can get installed on the computer. It's a piece of malware called a keylogger. And it will capture all of your strokes, like keyboard strokes. So it'll capture your account name and your password, the website that you were trying to log to, and all of that information gets sent off to a hacker somewhere. And now they have all of your bank login information. So especially banking with financial websites on a public computer, don't do it. If you have to do it, I think one time I was at a hotel before a conference and I had to get some hotel information, my booking number or whatever, and I had to log into my email. And my phone was dead and I needed it right then and there. So luckily there was a hotel computer. So I did log in, but I changed the password immediately on my friend's phone, or once I got my phone charged, I changed my password immediately. So just, it's important to know that uh, computers like that aren't safe and you shouldn't be doing banking or logging in or anything like that on a public computer. If you're going to buy something or use funds, finances, do it from a computer you know and trust, your laptop, the one at home. Um, Phones, it's not so bad because phones are locked down in such a way that it's not a big deal. Um, when it comes to like rooted phones and jailbroken phones, I wouldn't use banking on any of those. Because just Apple and the Android store, they have such a tight grip on anything that gets admitted to the Apple store, the Play Store, or whatever. Most of the things in the Apple store are going to be legitimate. So if your iPhone isn't rooted, most of the things on your phone, are probably legitimate and it's safe to log in. Now, if you're on Google's Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, and you're logging in, they may be able to intercept some of that traffic, but even then, you're logging into a secure website using HTTPS. I would think that information is probably okay, but it's better safe than sorry to just play it safe, I think. So if you're purchasing on an unfamiliar website, maybe you buy products on Instagram every now and then. You buy them through the store, you buy them through Etsy or some other account, something like that. Maybe you don't want to use your credit card information because you don't know or you've never used this website before. You can use something like PayPal to kind of act as an intermediary that holds your credit cards and purchases things on behalf of you. You can use PayPal goods and services. PayPal goods and services, I think there's a 3%, 3.5% upcharge when you buy through there. But like if you're purchasing something like, especially on like Facebook Marketplace and things, I use it all the time. But I use goods and services because if somebody doesn't send me the product or the product ever arrives, then I can tell PayPal, hey, I never got that product, give me my money back. And if you use goods and services, you'll get your money back. If you used friends and family, then you won't. So some kind of intermediary like that. We'll go over it when we get to credit cards, but purchasing with a credit card is always going to be better than purchasing with debit card. We'll go over that here in a minute. So social media, we all have one. That's how you found this Zoom link. Everyone uses it all the time. It's a great way to network, pass time, share photos, doom scroll to your heart's content, run businesses. It can also be used to obtain information about people. If I wanted to find out information about maybe one of my competitors or maybe some old classmates or something, maybe like an old bully, I can look them up on Facebook, find out how they're doing with their life and things. If you can look it up on Facebook, the hackers can also do that. So very easy. Go on Facebook, Instagram, find you. Oh, they live in Houston now. Oh, they have 3 kids or whatever. Oh, they live here. Oh, they're on vacation right now. I can maybe try to break into their house and steal things or whatever. Those are all what's called operational security. So if anybody here is in the military, you're very familiar with OPSEC, I'm sure. But those are all pieces of information that if you don't need to volunteer that piece of information, why are you going to tell everybody about it? Uh, it's the most ridiculous thing, and I see it all the time, but driving down the road, every now and then you'll see a car that has an Apple sticker on the back of it. And Apple sends you a sticker. Anytime you buy a MacBook or an iPhone, they give you a little Apple sticker, which is nice. But if you put that on the back of your car, now people know that you have an you have an Apple device, you have a phone, you have a computer. It may even be in this car right now. And so they can just wait for that car to be parked somewhere to break in and steal your stuff. In Texas, we see it all the time. People have gun stickers on the back that says Glock or Smith and Wesson or something, which is great. But now somebody knows that you might have a gun in the car, wait for the car to be parked, and then break in and steal it. So those are all pieces of what's called operational security. Um, don't share the knowledge with somebody if they haven't asked you for it. Um, Maybe the same kind of thing, like maybe you want to take an extra sick day at work or whatever, and but instead you want to go out and go to the rodeo or go to a party or something. Why would you, the next week when you're in the office, tell everybody that, oh, I was at the rodeo, I had a great time or whatever, when you've just told your boss the week before that you were sick? Uh, that's all operational security. Don't share photos of a trip that you're currently on. It could be give people knowledge that you're out of town. Um, very easy to get all that off of social media, and you're encouraged to post and post often, but it's not wise sometimes. Scraping data, super easy. I was at a conference a couple years ago, and they were showing us how to extract uh, job leads from LinkedIn. And for example, they were like, I want to work in the finance sector, or I want to work for a bank. And so they wrote a program that would go on LinkedIn and give me everybody with the name hiring manager on LinkedIn. Okay, now craft an email that sends it, or a message that sends it to every one of these people in LinkedIn that says, hey, I'm looking for a job, send me something. So they were able to scrape off social media that all of these people are hiring managers. Now I can send messages to every single one of them. The same thing can be done with Facebook. Same thing can be done with Instagram. I want a list of all the people on Facebook in the Houston area that sell dogs or something. That hackers can use this stuff in any number of different ways. We can talk about examples all night, but we're going to move on. AI has become much more of a threat when it comes to scraping data, because now I don't have to write the program anymore. I can have AI do it for me. AI reaches out, scrapes everything, gives me all the information I want. So it's made it much, much more dangerous. We won't really get into the dead internet theory, but the more AI is used to generate articles, to make videos, the more likely the person you're talking to or the article you're reading isn't actually a person. It's an AI that wrote this. It's an AI that made this whole video. And that's what the whole dead internet theory goes on to. So if you Google, I want recipes for fettuccine Alfredo or something, it's more likely than not that all of the pages you're going to see in Google on the first or second search pages are written by AI. And that's especially true when it comes to social media. There's been a huge effort to write disinformation to all of these dumb challenges. You see them all the time. The cinnamon challenge, planking was a thing 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Um, AI has made it much, much easier to spread disinformation on the internet. And it's just rampant. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. It may not even be true, may not even be written by a person. So disinformation on social media is king. So this, not that one. Let me go back a couple. So this picture that I have here is it's a hoax, first off, so don't believe it. But whenever iOS 8 came out, there was an image that was circulating on social media that said Apple Wave, the new biggest feature for iPhone. Take your phone, charge it wirelessly, do it in the microwave. And it actually says that at the bottom, how Wave works. iPhone contains your new drivers that interface with your device's radio baseband, allowing it to synchronize with microwave frequencies to recharge your battery. People actually did this. They put their phones in the microwave. Apple said they didn't do it, but if you looked at the Apple forums when this was going on, it was just thread after thread of panic. Help, I microwaved my phone. What do I do? How do I recover? So this is just one piece of different disinformation that can spread like wildfire on social media. Now let's go over a couple more. Tide Pods. Everybody's heard about it, I'm sure. Um, Super popular a couple years ago for kids to eat these things. There was a bunch of videos going around social media. Perfect place for stuff like this to spread. The one on the right, two guys wearing headbands, they're actually driving a car. It was another dumb challenge that was spreading on social media. You should always be wary of seeing things on social media like, oh, try this new trend. So another one this morning, there was a girl who was like, oh, a teeth whitening trend. She put kind of this green substance or something on her teeth, and it actually stained her teeth green. Like it can be potentially dangerous for a lot of these things. Just don't believe everything you read on the internet, please. We're going to get an email security, not spend too much time on it because a lot of it's covered in when we get to scams. But we kind of briefly touched on link security, but storing documents, sending and receiving insensitive information, spam and phishing, and how to spot it. So email phishing is a method of gaining information or access to a computer by sending some elicited email to you. So you get an email that says, hey, I'm a Nigerian prince. Send me $500 and I'll send you $500,000. People fall for these pretty often, more often than you think, where you send the $500 and you just never see it ever again. So going back to link shorteners a little bit, you'll see it a lot with email phishing where there'll be a link in the email that says, oh, open uh, this love letter or something, or oh, this cute dog video or whatever. But it's actually a link to a hacker's website or to some piece of virus or malware or whatever. You don't know what that stuff is, so just you can hover over those links and it'll tell you, okay, it's not going to youtube.com, it's actually going to Russia or whatever. Maybe I shouldn't open this. If you're legitimately waiting for an email from somebody, say they're requesting, you're working with your bank to change your banking information and they want to update your address or something, and you're waiting on an email like that, I would always err on the side of caution and call the bank and try to give them that information. If somebody asks you for your information ever, you should always assume that it's bad. If anyone sends you a text and says, hey, we need you to log into your account, we think some suspicious activity has been happening. Oh, we need you to update your address. We need you to update your banking information. I would always assume that it's bad and never go through with it. Your bank is never going to ask for that stuff. The IRS is never going to send you a text that says, I need you to update your IRS information or we're going to sick the police on you or something. The police is never going to contact you. The FBI is never going to contact. If the FBI or the police wants to get a hold of you, they know where you live. They will find you. They're not going to send you an email or send you a text message or something. I would always assume that email communication is compromised. Um, Emails, it's pretty easy to get in between and insert, like for a hacker to insert themselves in an email communication. I've seen a couple over the years where a hacker got a hold of somebody's mailbox, like the accountant's mailbox, and was sending out things, hey, we need to update our banking information, or maybe they obtain access to a mailbox and then they sat on it and waited until the accountant and the comptroller were exchanging wire information to send maybe $20,000 to a vendor. And then the hacker just found their best moment to say, no, don't send it to that ACH account, send it to my other ACH account over here. And then the vendor sends the money, and now the hacker has $20,000. So anytime somebody is requesting information, first of all, if anybody's requesting information ever, it's not legitimate. But anytime you're maybe setting up a new bank account or something like that, I would always try to get a person on the phone with the bank. Every credit card and debit card you have has the bank's number on the back. Call that one every time. Work with them, and then you'll be able to get it squared away. Don't answer a text ever. Just assume it's garbage. So here's kind of a short phishing exercise, but so you received this email from Luke Johnson. Luke Jason 8000 at gmail.com has invited you to edit the following document. It looks like it's kind of like a Gmail Drive style document, but if you hover over that open icon at the bottom, it actually says, I think that it goes to like drive-google.com, which isn't actually Google Drive. Google Drive is drive.google.com. So now you know drive-google is actually a completely different website. It's not associated with Google at all. So you know this is not legitimate, and you can block the sender, delete the email. So same thing with when you're getting emails from maybe your friend, you have a friend, Jiminy Cricket, that you email all the time. But you've gotten kind of a weird email that maybe he doesn't have an email signature, or maybe there's some misspelling in the email. It looks kind of weird. So these, the email at the top right is the legitimate email that I made up for this exercise, but the ones at the bottom are slightly different, all three of them. So the first one is homedepot.co. Homedepot.co isn't the same website as homedepot.com. So this isn't exactly the same email address. This is completely different. It's bad. This next one, it's very similar, but if you can spot it, the E is actually kind of looks like a backwards 3, right? That E is a Cyrillic E. So Cyrillic, like for the Russian language, which makes this a completely different website than homedepot.com. So this one's bad. And then this last one also uses homedepot.com, but instead of spelling Jiminy with Jimmi, the I has been changed to an L. So this is not the same email address either. And I've got another kind of example on the left side, which is one that I saw last week. These are Cyrillic versus Latin A's. You'll see it more often than not. The one at the top is a Cyrillic A, and the one at the bottom is the Latin A. And so they are very, very similar, but different enough to make it a completely different website or a completely different email address. So it's just something to be aware of. If anyone's asking you for information, just get them on the phone and call them and confirm that that's actually what they need, or ask them, hey, did you send me this? Okay, you didn't. All right, well, I'm going to block this email, then delete it. So safe practices, we kind of gone over some of these things. Don't open random links. You can hover over them and it'll tell you where it goes. Your sensitive documents should not be stored in your email, by the way. We didn't really go over that, but it's the same thing as backups. Don't use your email as your backup. I see it with some of my customers. They have these big engineering drawings and they store them, but they're not storing them on their computer or on a server. They're leaving them in their email, which one will make their email mailbox blow up in size. And two, if the email host ever decides to delete that message or it somehow gets deleted, then you lose the document. It's the same thing as like if maybe I have tax documents that are stored in my email or something. Don't leave them there. Put them somewhere safe that you know is going to be backed up. You should never be sending and receiving sensitive information either. Stuff like social security numbers, credit card numbers, passwords, bank account details. I see it all the time. Wire and ACH details. I see it way more often than you would think. And I tell people every time, don't put this in your email, call them and give it to them over the phone if they really need it, like if the bank needs it. You should not be sending this in email. I would always assume the email is compromised or somebody's looking at it. So banking and credit cards. We all have them, piece of plastic. I've got one in my wallet right now. There are different payment types. There's different levels of fraud protection. There's credit protection. We'll go over bank calls a little bit. So everyone's got one. Payment types. It used to be 20, 30 years ago, credit cards only had what's called mag strip, where it has a little magnetic strip that you swipe, right? Nowadays, everybody has they have the chip on their card, and then they just insert the chip, or contactless on the back of the card. You might see a little Wi-Fi icon, which means the credit card is you can swipe it instead. I would always try to use contactless when I pay because mag strip and chip can be skimmed, and we'll show you some examples of skimmers later and what those look like. Mag strip is the least safe out of all of them, but chip can also be stolen as well. Always try to use a credit card instead of a debit card. When you're using a credit card, your credit card has fraud protection because that's the bank's money, right? It's not your money. You pay the bill later. With debit cards, you don't have very good fraud protection. It takes maybe 90 days if the money gets stolen for that money to be restored to your account. Whereas with a credit card, you just tell the bank, hey, this charge wasn't me, and they send the money back in your account immediately. So I would always try to use a credit card if I'm going to do that, because if it gets stolen, it's not my money, it's the bank's, they'll give it back to me immediately. So here's some of the examples of skimmers you'll see. For the one on the left, if you'll notice, there's just kind of a little nub on the end, and that nub has a microcontroller on it that will read the magnetic strip off of anything that you put in there. And sometimes they have cameras on them that can collect your PIN information. Sometimes they have SIM cards to send that information off to the attacker. But credit card mag strip is probably the least safe method that you can use. Same thing with the right, looks almost identical. The one on the right versus the one right to the left with the without skimmer. You'll notice it just has this little rubber protection thing on the outside. And that's actually the whole faceplate sits on top of the credit card reader. And so when you press on the buttons, those buttons are pressing on the buttons underneath. And then that's what's making it look like, well, I'm still paying, so it's okay, but that's a skimmer, it's stealing your information. Here's a couple more. So the one on the left is just this little black or this little gray plate that sits over the top of the other one. So when you insert your card, you're sliding it through the skimmer and it's storing your information. The same thing with the one on the right. It's you slide it through, stores your information. It looks like you've used an ATM or used your card, and it may even be successful on the reader, but that skimmer now has your information and it's sent somewhere else. So best practices for credit cards. We kind of went over this a little bit, but never answer a call from the fraud department. Even if the caller ID says it's Bank of America, it's Wells Fargo, I would always ignore the call and then look at my credit card and call the number on the back of my card. Obviously, like if you bank with Bank of America and Wells Fargo calls you, that's probably not legitimate. You can just ignore it because you don't even have a Wells Fargo card. But always look at the back of the card and call that number instead. Your bank is never going to call you and ask you for information. They're never going to call you and say, hey, we need you to authenticate your account or your account's going to get locked in. And it's always going to be a scam when somebody does that. Always call the bank back using the number of your card. Exactly. Never use magstripe. Try not to use debit cards because of that fraud protection that we talked about. Credit cards have the better fraud protection. Lean on the bank a little bit and their fraud protection, and then just make your regular payments on your credit card. It's a little safer. Never use random ATMs unless you use this one trick that I like to use, that aren't attached to a bank. I was at the rodeo the other day, me and my girlfriend and some friends, and the place that we were buying rodeo hats from was cash only. And so I didn't have enough cash. So what I did is, instead of using my debit card that has my money or my credit card, which I could have used, but it was an ATM, so I needed the cash. I have a separate card, like a Venmo card, that I have my Venmo account where I can load money into it and send money between myself and friends and whatever. But Venmo will actually give you a free debit card that you can use to, as it accesses the funds that are in your Venmo account. So in my case, I use it to put in this random ATM that I don't know. It only has access to the funds that are in my Venmo account that I've put in there. And so I just say, hey, I want $200. I only have $200 in my Venmo account. And so then it gives me that. And that way, if that ATM has a scammer on it, or it's attached to somebody that's skimming credit cards, then I know that it doesn't even matter if they have my card information, because I only use that Venmo card. I can always email Venmo and tell them this card is garbage, give me another one, or I can put a lock on my account even. And so it's a little safer to have access to funds and cash if you really need it. And there's always, if you're an iPhone user, Apple Pay is awesome, because when you use Apple Pay, you can store all of your cards in Apple Pay and switch which one you want to use, right then and there. But when you swipe Apple Pay, it's storing a token of your credit card. So not an exact copy, but it sends a unique credit card, if you will, to the reader whenever you swipe it every time. So if there is a skimmer that's catching contactless, then it's going to catch that unique token every time. And then that token gets thrown away after the transaction's done. So it doesn't even matter if they have that card information or not. I would always try to use Apple Pay if you can, even at a drive-through. Like, you go to a McDonald's, you hand them your credit card, and they turn around and you don't see them for a split second. I've seen it before where they have two magstrip readers, where one is a skimmer and the other one's legitimate, and they swipe it on the skimmer first, and then they swipe it on the legitimate one and give you your card back. Like, if they're gone for a split second with your card, they could be doing anything. So that's why I always say, try to do contactless, try to do Apple Pay, and it's going to save you a lot of heartache. You can also set card transaction limits at your bank for your credit card. I've done it on one of my cards. All you have to do is log into the website, the banking website, and say, I want Bank of America to send me a text message anytime a purchase is made with more than $1 on this credit card. And it's just a way for me to know that if I swipe my card, I should get a text message immediately. But maybe I'm sitting at home and I see an alert come through. Well, what is that? It wasn't me. Okay, well, maybe it was some other service that's on auto bill, but it allows me to have more information about all of the purchases that are being made with my cards. And we already went over using a Venmo debit card. Super useful way to access funds if you really need them, even if you're away from the bank. If you do need to get money and you need to do it out of your debit card, I would always try to go into the bank during business hours and use the ATM that's inside the bank. That place is covered with cameras. It's almost impossible for someone to lay a skimmer. And you wouldn't believe how fast people can drop a skimmer on a reader within 20 seconds. It's very easy. If you suspect your identity has been stolen, you can also freeze your credit with all 3 credit bureaus. Very easy to call your bank. It's not fun. I've had to do it before, calling my bank and canceling all my credit cards. You can freeze your credit with Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and tell them, I don't want any new credit cards or bills to be set up in this period where I'm trying to figure out what level of of identity being stolen or how much of my identity has been stolen, how much has it been used or whatever. And then just remember to go and unfreeze your accounts, because if you sign up for new credit cards, or maybe you're trying to sign up with a power company or something, you're not going to be able to do that if your credit card is, or if your credit is frozen. So my last section, we're going to go over a lot of scams. There's tons of them. Lottery, how are we on time? Okay, sorry, we're going a little bit over. Scams, tons of them. Lotteries, job offers, grandparents, robocallers, cryptocurrency charity, tons of them all over the place. So these last slides are just kind of meant as examples. So I'll show you this one. Equifax sent a tweet that said, hey, if you were affected by our breach in 2017, go to this website. But they actually sent the wrong website. The one at the bottom down there under Dave Rand says, that's the actual website. Even Equifax sent them the wrong website. This is a completely different website. So they've just scammed a bunch of people, essentially. Scam vectors, email, social media, pop-ups, text messages, all the above. AI, deepfakes, clone voices, you'll see it. Like on this one on the right side, oh my God, is this photo you? And they've got a little tiny URL right there. You could hover over that, or I would copy it and unshorten it and find out where that's sending to you, or you can just do what I do and just ignore them. Same thing with this example down here at the bottom right. Red flags for scams, especially in email. Anything that's misspelled, anything that's addressing you as your full name. When people from other countries use translation software to translate into English, oftentimes it doesn't translate it correctly. So if you read it as if somebody speaking English was writing it, it says like, I now am happy that I have gotten loan that I request for, or something. So it's not reading like a normal person wrote it. It's probably reading like a robot wrote it, or somebody translated it and is trying to scam you. So same thing as before, where people requesting information, banking information or whatever about you. If anybody is promising free money, easy money, they're asking for information, they're threatening you to perform some action, it's almost always going to be a scam. There's one going around a lot right now where people are receiving text messages that say, hey, you have an unpaid toll bill from TX or EasyPass or whatever. We need you to use this website and pay this bill or whatever, and that's not legitimate at all. So we kind of went over QR codes, but it's trivial to put a sticker of another QR code over the top of one and then have people scan that. It's literally just using a link shortener that could go anywhere they want it to, and you would have no idea. And here's an example of that toll email. You have an outstanding toll, here's your balance. This website, mn.us etm.vip, isn't legitimate at all. The toll company is never going to send you a text like this. They're probably just going to send you a violation in the mail or something like that. They're never going to do this. There's another one I saw now that Amazon, people will buy like a little $1 thing from Amazon and put it in a box and send it to you. And that box has a little trinket or something in it, and also a QR code. And when you scan the QR code, now it's downloading malware or whatever on your phone. UPS, I see these all the time on my own phone. UPS package has arrived, and then it has a little fake link right there. That's not legitimate at all. Always just ignore this stuff. It's all spam. This one is actually it's called a pop-up scam. So sometimes when you browse websites, you'll get little things in the bottom right corner. Hey, your computer has a virus. You should fix this immediately or whatever. This is one I looked at this morning for a client. And you'll notice that he does not have this list on the left is all the programs he has installed. McAfee is nowhere in this list. He got this alert on the right side, and you'll see at the bottom, there's a little thing, b8869us.co.in is India. So not legitimate. It's trying to get him to download something. So I just went and blocked his notifications and scanned his computer, and he was fine. Extortion scams. So sometimes my customers receive emails that say, hey, we have access to your computer, we have access to your network. oh, we've seen what you do on your phone in the odd hours of the night. Give me so many Bitcoins and I'll forget that this happened or whatever. So anytime somebody is extorting you for money for information they supposedly do or don't have, it's always going to be a scam. More often than not, it's just safer to just delete it. They're very rare, very rarely will, if you don't listen to these things, they actually happen. So I have had something like this similar happen to a customer where they got a link that said, or they got an email that said, hey, I have access to your whole network. I've had it for weeks. Here's some pictures of the data that I've found. Um, if you don't do this, I'm going to release your information to the public. So very rarely these will be legitimate, but almost always they're not. Same thing with this one. I'm from China. I've seen all of your illicit videos that you've done or whatever. Send me euros and I'll forget that this happened. So here's some useful links. We're almost done, I promise. Haveibeenpwned.com is a website you can go to. You can put your email address in, and then it says these are all the websites that your email address has been exposed to in a link. And so I have it over here pulled up, and I'll just show you an example of it real quick. So this is the haveibeenpwned.com. I just put in, for example, me@me.com. And so it says it's been found in 338 data breaches, found in this many paste bins. And then it tells you all of the different things that it was found in. Tells you when the breach happened, what was stolen, email addresses, password, hence passwords. And so super useful way to just quickly find out if you've been in a data breach or not. And then my other one, this check short URL is a way to unshorten links. So you could take that link, the tiny URL, and put it in there and expand it and then have it tell you what it actually was. Let me just show this really quickly. Oh, not that. So here's that same Zoom link from earlier for our own session that we're running. We're going to expand it, get the long URL, and there it is right there, a Zoom link. And here's all the meeting registration info. Tells us exactly what it is. So, and these other two are just kind of more rehashings of the information I've just showed you. FBI.gov has a super helpful breakdown of scams, common fraud tips. Kaspersky is one of those antivirus vendors that we talked about earlier. Top 10 preventative safety rules and what not to do online. Super useful stuff. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. That's it for my presentation. I'm so sorry that we've gone over 30 minutes now, but I could talk for hours about this stuff. Does anyone have any questions at all?
Yeah, Micah, we got a couple questions. If anyone needs to drop, I'm gonna send out the recording when it's done, so you'll be able to get the answers. But earlier
Yeah,
when you were talking about VPNs and like flash drives and all that, someone asked, you mentioned on the tool side for Norton, is Norton not recommended compared to some of the other antivirus places, or do you have any that you recommend for Windows specifically, or the whole thing with that?
yes. So Cheetah, so sorry I missed your questions. Norton, I don't like to recommend specifically because it's very resource intensive on the computer. And oftentimes it has pop-up of its own, like, hey, renew now. Hey, do this. Oh, we got this other alert. And so it's very, we call it noisy or it's annoying. And
Yeah.
it oftentimes isn't as good as the other products, or it often kind of acts like a virus itself. Even when you try to get rid of it, it just doesn't want to go away. And so I think there are better alternatives. Norton was very good in the early 2000s and late 2000s, but it's kind of evolved into a garbage product, I think, at this point. I would recommend something like ESET, ESET, something like Kaspersky, or even Microsoft Defender. I think they have a good product for Windows 11 nowadays, which some people, that's all they have is they just have Microsoft Defender. But I would have a little bit more than that. Bitdefender, Malwarebytes, and ESET are very good.
You kind of mentioned it, but with the flash drives, but can you go into a little bit more like for the common, young adult or any type of adult, like if they just want to maybe back up the tax form they sent their accountant, or they want to back up some type of information they maybe email, like what specific, like some specifics of what you would rather them do than the flash drive or just keeping it in a Google Drive?
Sure. If it's truly important, I would always try to burn it to a disk, like a CD or a DVD or something. I have customers who will, for tax year, fiscal year 2021, they take all of their tax documents after they're returned and they'll burn it to a CD and they just label it as that. And that CD, as long as it's not getting scratched up or anything, is not going to degrade over time. Not like a flash drive or an SSD or something. You want to know that if you need this stuff, I can access it. I would always try to choose some kind of optical media like that, like CD, DVD, Blu-ray, and know that it's going to be safe when I look at it in a couple years if I need it. The thing about SSDs and flash drives and things, I do see people using them a lot. And if you're gonna use SSDs, I would have more than one and maybe have a copy of that data on each one. And then there's the third copy is the copy on your computer. The fourth copy might be in a Google Drive or like a Dropbox that only you have access to or something. It depends on the level of sensitivity. If you're going to be sharing that with people, it's right there and it's already ready to go. If not, then just keep it somewhere in multiple places, though, is what I would want to see.
Yeah. You say that it would be safe to just maybe put it in a folder inside of a folder on your actual physical computer rather than just having it on the flash drive, right?
Yes and no. The computer's getting turned on all the time. And so it's not really going to degrade in the same way as one that's just sitting in a closet somewhere. But I would want to have another copy just in case something happens to the computer, right?
Yeah. The more copies, the better, basically. But just not having it just in your email, even if you have it in your Google Drive, is better than not, right?
Uh, I would not want to store it in the email just in case. It just makes it a lot easier too. Like if you're searching for it, right? Like I got to go through all my email over the last 2 years and find that one file I was looking for. Or yeah, I can have it in a folder in a place where I know it's going to be. It just makes it a lot more useful, I think, to have it in a Google Drive or to have it on like a disk or something. It just depends on how valuable that stuff is.
Yeah. How do you feel about Google Drive keeping some files in there for safekeeping?
I do it. I don't have a Google Drive. I use another one, but it's a cloud provider. They're all very similar. I
Mm.
do it for my delicate things like tax documents, and as long as it's only you or maybe like you and your spouse or somebody that has access to it. Um, it- yeah, I would say it's fine. Just make sure that account's secured and MFA'd. Like
Okay.
Google's a giant company, and so if Google were to get hacked, that's a big deal, right? So Google has a lot of resources and a big security team that's constantly looking out for these things. So it's in Google's best interest. Dropbox, the same thing. It's in their best interest to make sure that their stuff doesn't get hacked because that hurts their reputation. So I would say it's probably safe in those places. Just make sure you keep paying your bill, right?
Keep paying the bill and also maybe check every now and then to make sure nothing looks odd.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the last question was, let me hold on one second. What about password wallets like Bitwarden? What are your feelings on those?
Sorry, I didn't really go over that, and I meant to. Password managers are amazing. I use one all the time called Proton Pass. It's very similar to Bitwarden, LastPass, 1Password, all of those. It makes it very, very easy to generate passwords and store them without you having to remember them. So instead of remembering a password for every single logon, a lot of times what people will do is they'll have one password and use it for several logins. But the problem becomes if that one password gets stolen, now the hacker has access to all of your accounts. And that's usually the first thing they try to is, oh, well, I got their password. Let me try to log into Facebook, their bank, and then all of these different things and see if I can get in. So Bitwarden and LastPass and all of those managers will generate a password randomly and then use that to log in to whatever your account is. So then when you want to use that password again, you just make sure you're logged into Bitwarden and then it plugs it right in for you. And they're great. You can generate super long, super stupid passwords if you really want to. And it, sorry, I saw Tony's message and got distracted. It makes it really easy to generate passwords and store them. And if you, yeah, if one ever got stolen, then and it's only that one website that was breached, you can be safe in knowing that they've got a random password for that one website. All of your other ones are fine. Now the problem becomes if LastPass gets hacked, or if I lose my master password, now I'm locked out of all of the passwords that I have. If LastPass gets hacked, again, I think they've gotten hacked 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years. But they didn't ever get passwords, they just got names and addresses. But if they get hacked, like a big breach or something, now the hackers could potentially have all of your passwords. So there's kind of a trade-off with password managers. Maybe don't store those super valuable passwords in a password manager. Maybe like your one bank that you have access to, maybe that has its own unique password that's not in the password manager. It's just something to be aware of when using them. But I use them all the time, and my password manager also stores a lot of my multi-factor tokens. So if my phone ever got stolen, I would just have to log back into my account and then all of my stuff is there.
And stuff. Last question is how often do you think someone should go in and delete their cookies or cache?
Um, it couldn't hurt to do it maybe like once a month or so. Just to kind of clear out all of the garbage that you don't really use a lot, or maybe you don't want to be tracked for those things anymore. But it's not really even something that I remember to do regularly. It's kind of just like, oh, I haven't done this in a while, let me do it now. Um, but there are some paranoid people that just don't do it at all, don't use cookies at all. But I think for the general user, maybe like once every couple months shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Well, well, thanks so much, Micah, and thanks so much to everyone for coming tonight, and Micah for sharing your knowledge. I definitely learned some stuff and need to go change some passwords now that I've thought about it. So that's what I'm gonna go do before bed, and I'll be sending out this recording and Micah's presentation sometime next week to everyone, and everyone have a safe rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.